There goes all my Primo Gems. With the new Fontaine trailer, we see that can expect a bunch of new regions, statues of the Seven, waypoints, characters, weapons, and tons of exploration. But what's most important is what to pull on. I'm sure a lot of us have been saving all our Primo Gems for the arrival of new 4.0 Fontaine characters, and they're finally here and we need to know about them. First of all, we have our character from the underworld of Fontaine, the magician who works with his siblings, Linny. Linny is supposed to be a 5-star pyro character and is sure to provide some valuable DPS to your team if you're lacking it. Secondly, we have Navia, who appears to be the leader of one of the oppositionary factions of Fontaine, as she is clearly seen having an opposing color scheme to the main Fontaine overlords, as well as a unique steampunk aesthetic which is sure to be important to the story. Next we have Nouvelette, the Chief Justice of Fontaine. Nouvelette acts as the reigning ruler of Fontaine in place of the Archon when she is not currently in power. And finally, speaking of her, we have the Tsundere Archon who sits from side and watches over Fontaine, Furina or Focalors. Furina is sure to have many important contributions towards the story and the Archon quest of Fontaine, as her gnosis will surely be important to Saritsa and her quest for glory. But all 4 of these Fontaine characters look very cool, and their designs have all the players thinking of how to spend their Primo Gems. In this video we will cover the various design and kit aspects of these characters, as well as whether you should pull for them or not based upon what your account needs at this specific point in time. Once again, these are not leaks, but merely assessments of the characters' kits and design, as well as how they fit in with the lore and the general theme of Fontaine as it compares to the other 4 regions we've explored so far. Please take everything you see with a grain of salt, and with those disclaimers out of the way, let's get into these characters. These are the characters I expect will occupy the first 3 or 4 banners of the 4.x series, and I hope that the advice you provide will be found useful by you. A large theme of Fontaine seems to be this idea of duality or dichotomy. We can clearly see it with the blue and brown contrasts in the design of the cities as well as the design of the characters. I do expect to be there some quarrel between Nouvelette and Navia, who I expect to be the primary main characters opposing each other in this quest to see what is justice and what has its control over free will. I expect to be very nuanced elements to the story, as justice itself is a very popular theme in games and shows, and it is sure to be very interesting when explored. Kicking it off, we have Linny, who was featured heavily in the trailer, partially as a narrator and partially as the main introduction to Fontaine. Linny will be a 5-star pyro DPS, wielding the pyro element using a bow. From what we can see of him so far, he seems to be really good in mono pyro compositions, as he is able to use all of Zhangling's and Bennett's abilities to the fullest, as his kit allows him to have more buffs the more pyro characters he has in his party. Additionally, Lynette is very good with him for crowd control, and their synergy as siblings seems to be very promising. Next up we have Navia, the Geo character from Fontaine with a steampunk aesthetic, who I expect to be a polearm user, although she could have a surprise claymore appearance. Navia I expect will help provide the much needed Geo rework and make it more compatible with elements as well as reactions. She should be a support and enabler of different compositions to work with on-field elemental appliers and use the crystallized reaction as well as the crystallized cores in a different facet like Nilo does with her bountiful blooms. Thirdly, we have Nouvelette, the Chief Justice of Fontaine, who I expect to be some sort of hybrid carry. Although he could use a polearm, his design indicates that he will use a catalyst. I have said the same thing for Zhongli in the past, but his aesthetic highly hints towards the fact that he will be a catalyst spell user. From what we can tell about him so far, he should have off-field and on-field presence, sort of like Ayato, with totems that scale off of HP, and can be applied off-field. This split scaling is sure to make him good in any composition, but I think he will feature best in HP based compositions with characters like Yelan. Finally, we have the Hydro Archon herself, Furina, better known by her ancient name, Fogelers. From what we can see of Furina, she seems to be very carefree and relaxed, and from the general pattern of Archons using different weapons, I expect her to be a sword user. Of course, Archons are generally like their slimes and their travelers, so I expect her to have some sort of dual personality with her different eyes, and that to be manifested with different sort of fluctuations in HP as well as the party's HP. She is obviously going to have great elemental application as an Archon, as we have seen from all three, and the latest one having the greatest elemental application in the past. And of course, her burst is sure to be a meta-defining mechanic, which I expect to have some great impact by the HP that she consumes to use it. Now that we have a brief understanding of the Fontaine characters, I expect all of them to have significant appearances in the story, as they all appear to be in pivotal roles towards the future of Fontaine and how they meet and encounter the Traveler. Fontaine seems to be a beautiful city with drawings from ancient France as well as steampunk Germany and burlesque Europe. It seems to be looking very good so far, but I hope they do implement many minor issues that will help provide buffs to the different elemental types and reactions, so that elements like Geo and Electro are not as left in the past. Obviously, Electro has received minor buffs with Dendro, but that being said, I do hope we get more reactions that sort of further push the meta towards involving different compositions. As we saw in the trailers, the new region will introduce underwater exploration, and although I am not a fan of water levels in other games, the exploration looks fluid and dynamic, and I can only hope that Genshin will implement good changes as they have done in the past. Now, as we all know, you should always pull for the characters you like and not the meta, but please temper your expectations as these characters seem to be very good and appealing going forward. As always, leave your comments down below, and please tell me if you would like guides or descriptions of any characters coming in the future. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.